Imagine this. You're on a plane 35,000 feet in the air, cruising along just fine. Suddenly, the cabin jolts, the seatbelt sign dings on, and your drink starts to shake in your cup. Your heart jumps a little. You grip the armrest. Does that sound familiar? For a lot of people, turbulence is one of the most nerve wracking parts of flying. It feels random, uncontrollable, and sometimes even scary. But the truth is, turbulence isn't dangerous. It's normal, expected part of flying. And the more we understand what it actually is, the less intimidating it becomes. I've always been fascinated by what makes a plane shake, probably because I want to be a pilot someday. I want to understand what I'm up against in the sky. So, today, I want to explain what turbulence really is, what causes it, and how pilots deal with it every day to keep passengers safe. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, I'll talk about what turbulence is and what really causes it. Then, we'll look at the three main types of turbulence that pilots encounter. And finally, I'll show you how pilots manage turbulence to make flying as smooth and safe as possible. So, what actually is turbulence? Turbulence happens when smooth airflow around the plane becomes unstable or disrupted. That disruption can cause the aircraft to bounce, shake, or feel like it's floating for a second. It's kind of like when you're driving down a perfectly smooth highway and then you suddenly hit a rough patch of road. The car still works fine, but the ride isn't as comfortable. Turbulence can be caused by a few different things: changes in air pressure, jet streams, rising warm air, or even wind hitting obstacles like mountains. Think of air like water. It shifts, it and sometimes it crashes into things and creates waves or currents. Turbulence is measured in levels. Light turbulence might make your drink wobble a little. Moderate turbulence might cause a noticeable jolt or bump. Severe turbulence, which is rare, could toss items or unbuckled passengers, and extreme turbulence is very rare and typically only happens in serious storms. But here's the key thing: planes are built for all of this, pilots are trained for it. It might feel intense, but it's very manageable. Now that you know what turbulence is and what causes it, let's talk about the types of turbulence pilots deal with, because not all turbulence is the same. The first type is called clear air turbulence, or CAT for short. This type happens at high altitudes, usually near the jet stream, and the tricky part is it shows up in completely clear skies. There are no clouds, no storms, nothing that looks threatening, which makes it hard to detect, even with radar. According to the National Weather Service, CAT is usually caused by sudden changes in wind direction or speed, a phenomenon called wind shear. And because it happens away from storms, it can surprise both pilots and passengers. A 2025 study by DeVito and his team at the Italian Aerospace Research Center found that clear air turbulence is becoming more frequent and intense, and climate change is a major reason why. As jet streams shift and strengthen, CAT events are popping up more often along international flight routes. The second type is called mechanical turbulence, and it's caused by wind interacting with obstacles on the ground, like buildings, forests, or mountain ranges. This is where I would like to pause and show you something visual. Here's a simple diagram of a mountain range. You can see how the wind approaches the mountains from one side and is forced to rise up over the peaks. But instead of flowing smoothly over the top, the air starts to tumble and swirl on the other side, creating what we call mountain waves. These rolling, choppy air currents can create significant turbulence for any aircraft flying over or downwind of the mountains. According to the National Weather Service, the stronger the wind and the rougher the terrain, the more intense this kind of turbulence can be. So, pilots flying over the areas like the Rockies or the Andes often expect mechanical turbulence and plan accordingly. The third type is called convective turbulence, also known as thermal turbulence, and it's caused by rising warm air. Picture a hot summer day. The sun heats the ground, and that warm surface heats the air above it. Eventually, that warm air rises quickly in bubbles called thermals. As planes fly through these rising columns of air, especially during takeoff or landing, the aircraft can feel a series of bumps or jolts. This type is super common in the afternoons, especially over any deserts or farmland or anywhere that just heats up unevenly. All right, so now that we've covered what turbulence is and the different forms it takes, but now let's talk about how pilots handle it. First, pilots use weather radar and flight planning tools to stay ahead of turbulence. They get constant updates from dispatch and other aircraft in the area. According to aviation writer Jan Maas, pilots scan radar about 80 nautical miles and will often adjust their course by at least 20 miles to avoid rough weather systems. They're always thinking ahead. Second, planes themselves are engineered to withstand turbulence, way more than passengers realize. For example, aerospace writer Kushal Bhatta explained in 2025 that the wings on a Boeing 787 can flex up to 25 feet during turbulence, and in lab testing, they've been bent to nearly 90 degrees just to make sure they won't break under stress. These planes are built using modern materials like carbon fiber, which allow for flexibility without sacrificing strength. And finally, pilots and crew keep everyone safe by communicating. When turbulence is expected, they turn on the seatbelt sign, they make announcements to let passengers know what's happening, and the flight attendants prepare by securing carts, making sure everyone's buckled in. So let's bring it all together. Turbulence is just a natural part of flying. It might feel scary in the moment, but it's rarely dangerous. Today, we've talked about what turbulence is and what causes it. We've explored the different types, like clear air, mechanical, and convective turbulence, and we looked at how pilots manage all of it through planning, technology, and experience. As someone who wants to be a pilot, I find it super reassuring to know that turbulence is something pilots expect, prepare, and train to handle every single day. So the next time you're up in the air and feel a few bumps, don't panic. It's not a sign something wrong, it's just the sky doing what it does.